Hello everybody, welcome back to another video on the Texas Rangers Report. And if this is your first time watching, make sure to subscribe right now because I'm your number one source for all things Texas Rangers and the offseason and into the regular season as well. So the 2021 season was a dumpster fire for the Texas Rangers. We finished with a record of 60 wins and 102 losses. We were no-hit twice. Yes, twice. Once by Joe Musgrove and the other one by Corey Kluber. Pretty ironic because Corey Kluber is who we actually traded for a few off seasons ago. He came back to haunt us in the form of the New York Yankees pitcher. And the highest accumulated F-WAR, so Fangraphs WAR, on the Texas Rangers was a 3.3 by Joey Gallo, and he accumulated that Fangraphs WAR through half of the season. So it was a pretty dismal season for the Texas Rangers, to say the least. However, even in the midst of all the terrible baseball that was played this year, in my opinion, I still think the Rangers managed to find a pretty solid hitter in Nathaniel Lowe. I call him Nate Lowe, his mom calls him Nathaniel Lowe, but he could be the most underrated hitter in the MLB. So back on December 10th, 2020, the Rangers struck a deal with the Tampa Bay Rays for first baseman Nate Lowe and prospects outfielder Carl Chester and first baseman Jake Luther. In return, the Rays received prospects infielder Osleivis Basabe, outfielder slash first baseman Herberto Hernandez, and outfielder Alexander Ovales. And just in case you're interested, Alexander Ovales is who the Rangers received in the Cole Hamels deal to the Cubs. But anyways, getting back to it, Nate Lowe seemed like a good trade candidate for the Tampa Bay Rays because he was blocked by a really stacked corner infield in Tampa Bay with the likes of G-Man Choi, Yandy Diaz, and Mike Brusso at the time. So Nate Lowe was he wasn't going to crack that pecking order anytime soon. And ever since the Rangers let Mitch Moreland go in free agency to the Boston Red Sox, the Rangers have deployed the likes of Ronald Guzman, Mike Napoli, Ryan Rua, Jerickson Profar, Danny Santana, Scott Heineman, Todd Frazier, and Derek Dietrich over the past 4 years at the first base position. That is a long list. So it goes without saying that the Rangers front office and fans were really hoping that we got this trade right with the Mississippi first baseman in Nate Lowe. And that's kind of ironic because Mitch Moreland was our best first baseman for the longest, and that's where Nate Lowe is from. Also, top prospect Justin Foscue. Also, Dak Prescott, although I got a little sidetracked there. So the only competition Nate Lowe had going into the 2021 spring training was Ronald Guzman. And we all know Guzman hasn't lived up to his top prospect status. However, he came in and put up a good fight in spring training. But Lowe came out on top, although he drew some fans worried because he was almost too patient at the plate, if that could be a thing, which I will touch on later in this video. However, on a side note, Ronald Guzman did make the opening day roster because he had an OPS over 1,000, so he was raking in spring training, and he had no options. Also, Willie Calhoun got injured again. That's what always happens with Willie Calhoun, so I'm not surprised right there. So Guzman was playing in the outfield in the absence of Willie Calhoun in left field. But just when it seems like Ronald Guzman was back on track, he tore his ACL in Tropicana Field playing left field for the Texas Rangers. And I think that's kind of ironic because that is where Nate Lowe used to play for, and he took his spot in Texas, and that's where he tore his ACL. After that, the first base job was indefinitely Lowe's from here on out, and he started the season after the injury. The first base job was Lowe's from here on out, and he started the season off really hot. Accumulated 14 RBIs in his first 5 games with the Texas Rangers, which is now a Texas Rangers franchise record. If Lowe continued that pace, he would have had 454 RBIs by the end of the season. I'm only kidding, guys. Lowe's production after the first week expectedly dropped off, although he continued to have a productive season, finishing with a .264 batting average, .357 on base percentage, and a .457 and a .415 slugging percentage. And with a weighted runs created of 115, league average is 100. So Nate Lowe got it done at the plate, and he had a Fangraphs WAR of 1.6. These numbers don't look too spectacular, even though they were good numbers, but were still productive regardless. Although when I jump to his baseball savant numbers, I believe there's tremendous room for Nate Lowe to grow, and it all has to do with his launch angle. So Lowe already hits the ball hard, as his average exit velocity is in the 77th percentile of the MLB. His max exit velocity is in the 91st percentile. His hard hit percentage is in the 74th percentile, and his barrel percentage is in the 61st percentile in the MLB. He also is extremely patient at the plate, with a walk percentage in the 90th percentile, and that's how he gets on base a lot, and his chase rate is in the 82nd percentile in the MLB. So he's not swinging at bad pitches a lot. Although the thing with Lowe is that his expected numbers aren't that great, with an expected WOBA in the 45th percentile, expected batting average in the 23rd percentile, and expected slugging in the 35th percentile. Even though he hits the ball really hard with a hard hit percentage of 45.5%, which is better than the likes of Javier Baez, JT Realmuto, and Francisco Lindor, Lowe puts the ball on the ground too regularly with a ground ball percentage of 54.5%. This means that over half the time that Nate Lowe puts the ball in play, he is just hitting ground balls. By the way, a league average ground ball rate sits around 44%. I believe this is all attributed to Lowe's launch angle. Nate Lowe's launch angle for the 2021 season was 5 degrees, which was 7th worst in the MLB last year, only to the likes of Raimel Tapia from the Colorado Rockies with a negative 4.4, Nicky Lopez of the Kansas City Royals with a 2.8, Eric Hosmer of the Padres with a 3.3, Tim Anderson of the White Sox with a 4.3, Starling Marte with a 4.6, and Josh Bell of the Nationals with a 4.9. There are some really good stars that don't have crazy launch angles, so this isn't the biggest thing in the world, but I do think it could help with Nate Lowe's success. So breaking down launch angle in the 4 categories, you have a ground ball, which is less than 10 degrees, which Nate Lowe was at last season with his 5-degree launch angle. A line drive is 10 to 25 degrees, fly ball 25 to 50 degrees, and a pop-up is 50 degrees or higher. I believe that if Nate Lowe works on his launch angle this offseason to where he hits more line drives instead of ground balls, then he could become one of the best first basemen in the MLB. He will never be a Matt Olson type of player because Lowe doesn't have the type of glove that Olson has, although for an under-the-radar trade last season with the Tampa Bay Rays, this trade could pan out for the Texas Rangers. Even with Lowe's numbers from the 2021 season, he has been the Rangers' best first baseman ever since Mitch Moreland. Although, do you think Nate Lowe can make the jump and transition into a better launch angle for next year and beyond? Or do you think Lowe will continue to have more seasons like his 2021 season with the Texas Rangers? The Rangers have hired some really good hitting coaches this offseason, namely in Tim Hires from the Red Sox and Donnie Eckert from the San Francisco Giants, who helped revive the careers of Brandon Crawford, Evan Longoria, Buster Posey, and Brandon Belt. So I do believe that there is a good chance that Lowe is able to make that transition with his swing. That just about wraps up the video. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up down below. I would really appreciate it, and it would help out the channel tremendously. And in the comment section down below, let me know if you think Nate Lowe is the most underrated hitter in the MLB. And even if Lowe doesn't make strides with his launch angle, I still believe he is a good hitter. And even if Nate Lowe doesn't make strides with his launch angle, I still believe he's a good hitter. Thus, I believe it was a good trade for the Texas Rangers. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.